Peace, 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 peace and love, family. This is Callie Divine. Welcome to the Sacred Sistahood show. Today we have amazing guests who are here to share their insights and wisdom about creating sacred spaces and the importance of building a sisterhood. I'm so excited to be your host today. If you're a newcomer or a longtime listener, I want to welcome you to the sacred space where women come together, share their stories, and uplift each other. I understand that life has its ups and downs, and it's tough navigating this world, especially as a woman. That's why I created the show, to give us all a seat at this table, to have conversations that matter, and to empower each other. On this podcast, we'll share tips and tricks to navigate life's challenges, have honest discussions about topics that matter, and hear inspiring stories from trailblazing women who are making major moves in their lives. So, if you're ready to be inspired, encouraged, and uplifted, then you've come to the right place. We'll talk about everything from self-care to entrepreneurship to mental health to spirituality. So thanks for joining the Sacred Sisterhood show, and let's get into it. Welcome to the Sacred Sisterhood show. This sacred space is all about empowering women to achieve their best selves in all aspects of life. I'm your host, Callie Divine, and I'm so excited for our in-depth discussions about spirituality, mindfulness, and personal growth. Whether you're just starting your journey or looking to level up, the Sacred Sisterhood show is here to support you every step of the way. Our guest and I share our unique experiences and perspectives to help you unlock your hidden potential, tap into your inner goddess, and find your purpose in life. So sit back, grab a cup of tea or wine, and let's get ready for some good vibes and positive energy. I'm honored and thrilled to introduce our guest speaker for today's episode. This extraordinary goddess is someone who has walked the walk and truly embodies the values that I hold sacred to this community. She's a beacon of hope and inspiration for countless women who are seeking to find their purpose, passion, and inner strength. Ifa Daniyah is an Ifa priestess for the African American diaspora. She was raised as an Israelite in the 80s, having a conscious spiritual awakening in 2020, set her on a path that brought her much closer to the divine source than her previous religious practice had. A huge focus of her work is helping others cultivate similar experiences for themselves, a practically spiritual practice with self-love as the foundation and an authentic relationship with the Most High. In the course of her journey, not only does she initiate into the Ifa tradition and become a priestess, she's also a Reiki master, a death doula, and a master life coach. She's also known as the Priestess of Poetry, having performed at the Juneteenth Augusta and other events. And she also has 4 self-published books. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Priestess Ifa Daniyah, a true goddess of the Sacred Sisterhood. All right, so we're going to get into a little icebreaker, just to lighten the mood up and kind of like get to know you on a more personal level.
Okay.
So the icebreaker is called Spin the Wheel, and you'll see right here as I share my screen. We're going to spin the wheel and see what comes up.
All right. Lord, and I got no glasses on, so you're just going to have to read for me.
All right. I got you. Okay, all right. So this one is favorite mistakes. So this is all about something that happened in your past that you think that you could have done differently, right? A mistake that you made, but a favorite mistake because it helps you grow the most in your life and on your journey. So I'm not gonna put you on the spot. I'm gonna give you 60 seconds to gather your thoughts, and then we will return and you will give us a dynamic answer, right?
There's so many to choose from. Okay. Let me think
All right,
about
so
this.
we'll take a 60-second break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
right. I see you over there in deep thought. I think you came up with a good one.
I think I got a good one. I was trying to think of one that
All
wasn't
right.
heavy. Like this is supposed to be an iceberg. I didn't want to come through with like, oh my God, really? I'm trying to think of something right
Right.
light and like semi light. Like I got some, but like them was like, oh my God, Debbie Downer. Um, okay, so I'm ready.
Okay.
All right.
I'm all ears.
So I am someone and that in the last couple of years have been really intentionally learning to listen to my intuition and learning what that feels like and things of that nature and honoring the download when I get it. So sometimes we think we're just supposed to be listening to these big extravagant things and sometimes the little things matter. Sometimes the little things matter. So this was a lesson about the little things really do matter. So I'm moving about my day and I'm in the kitchen and what I hear is, the thought is like, you should check with your mom because she normally orders groceries on this day so that you can pick them up. And I let it pass. I'm like, okay, I'll call her, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't listen. I did not listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe a few hours later, I'm running errands, blah, blah, blah. Mom calls and I'm talking to her and she says, oh my God, I forgot to order my groceries. And
Oh, wow.
I'm just like, oh my God. And so then I tell her, like, if I had said something to you earlier, you would have
She would have remembered.
remembered to order your groceries. So for me, that was one of those like lessons is like, you got to listen, even when it's like the most innocuous thing, listen to the
Mm-hmm.
download. It's not going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay, cool. Let's just go with it. Honor the download and trust your intuition and do like just go do the thing and do it. That's the other thing I learned is to do it then. Some things are time sensitive and learning like
Mm-hmm.
in the moment. So I've been practicing that even more recently. Like if I get a download, it's like, hey, you didn't do that email yesterday. Like even if I'm supposed, I stopped mid prayer.
Just do it.
Yes, like my bio, I literally stopped mid prayer cycle, grabbed my laptop, and emailed that stuff because I got the download. It's like, okay, yeah, do that now. So yeah, that would be.
Now, let's talk about that. That's very relatable to me as well. However, now it's very hard for me to know what is intuition and what is like following my own intuition. I've had experiences where I thought I was following my own intuition, but it proved me wrong. It proved to not be what I thought it was. So that's something that is worth looking into. Like, how do you develop something like that? How do you actually like tune in to actually get
Oh,
the
now
right information?
you want me to teach it to? I promise you, I can teach it to you in less than 10 minutes.
Are you serious?
And you'll have to practice it afterwards, but I can teach you. A lot of times we follow our intuition, so it's reactive. And I learned a technique. I was watching early in my journey different content creators, and this particular one taught how to feel your intuitive yes. And when I say that has been the game changer, because then to your
Really?
point, that's when I know. Is this ego or is this my higher self or speaking to
Exactly.
me? Because a lot of times
Mhm.
they'll come simultaneously. And what we think
Mhm.
is intuition are words, ideas, and things like that. But there's something that happens physically in our body before that
Mhm.
happens. There's a feeling of
Okay.
something, but we're always on the go, like doing all these things. So we're not paying attention to little, and it was something so small that if you were busy, you would never notice it. If you were busy, you would never notice it.
Mm.
And mine, I realized when I first started reading tarot that it was happening during my readings. And so when I
Mhm.
actually did the exercise to tell what my yes was, it came up. It was like ding, 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 ding. Oh. So if you are open to it,
Absolutely.
you're open. Okay.
Let's.
All right. So I want you to like get
Absolutely.
relaxed. If you're not relaxed, get
All right.
relaxed. We're going to take a
Okay.
couple of deep breaths. So I want you to deep breath very much in through your nose, hold it, and out. Take 3 good deep breaths. Get yourself nice and relaxed. And while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about your intuition is the voice of your higher self. In some traditions, it's your star. In Ifa, it's your Ori. It is the part of you that still remembers it is one with Source, one with God. God is the Most High, Olodumare, whatever resonates with you. And it sees all of your pathways. It sees them all because you wrote them all already. So you don't make mistakes because you wrote every single possibility out already. Your intuition is trying to lead you on the path of least resistance, the easiest path. Like you could go that way. You could go that way, but I feel like if you go this way, you'll it'll be a little bit easier. Even if there's like a little shakeup, it could be a little shakeup or a tumbling and fall. It's a difference like that. So your intuition is the feeling that you get prior to the idea. It's the feeling before the idea. So
Okay.
instead of being reactive, knowing your intuitive yes is ability to then sit with your creator when you're you're on the fence about something. I can do this or that, and you can say, is this my easiest path, or is this the path that I should choose? And get the yes in the moment, not a cryptic
In the
parable
moment.
or things like that. Like, I'm going to go ahead
Send me a sign.
and get it right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Give me this yes in this moment and being able to trust it. So that's why I say I'm going to teach you how to feel it. Then your homework is you have to build the relationship with it and build that trust. So you have to actively seek it out on a daily basis. Not for big things. You have to do mundane stuff. But I'll tell you that at the end. So first I'm going to give you a prayer. We're going to tell the Most High this is what our intention is. So you're going to say, however you want to address God, you're just going to say, God, in this moment, please allow me to feel what my intuitive yes feels like. So however you want to word that.
Okay. I usually just address it as the universe, just the all. Please allow me to feel in this moment what my yes should be.
Okay. Now you're going to address your higher self. So however you address your higher self, you can say higher self, Ori, whatever that is. Please show me what it feels like in my body when I get a yes. Now, here's the thing. You're going to sit there quiet. And I don't care how ridiculous the sensation is, you will not judge it. Say it out loud. I felt such and such. And we'll take it from there. All right? So first, ask your higher self to give it to you.
Okay. Higher self, please show me what my yes is.
1 minute later.
Okay, so I felt something, right? And this is me doubting myself currently because
So then tell me what you felt.
so my thumb it shakes every now and then. Like I get a pulse, uncontrollable movement in my thumb. So when I did that, I got a little shake in my thumb. So maybe that could be it.
Okay.
That's the only thing I felt. And then I felt a little tingle in my my right hand.
Okay, so we're going to determine which one it is. So you're going to say higher self, is that my yes? And tell me what you feel.
Higher self, is this feeling in my left thumb my yes? I felt it again.
Okay.
I felt it again.
So we're going to calibrate now. Now we're going to calibrate it.
Okay.
So I want you to ask a question where you know the answer is yes. Like, are the ends of your locks red? It's something you know. There is no other answer. The only answer is yes, and see if you get a yes again. So you say higher self and then ask the question.
Okay. Higher self, am I left-handed? I felt it. Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do your locks. Ask about your locks.
Okay. All right. My locks are pink. All right.
Is that pink?
Higher
Lord?
self. Yeah. It translates as red on the camera.
Okay.
Higher self, are my locks hot pink? Uh-huh. I'm feeling it.
Okay.
It's not as prominent as it usually is. Like usually I get the feeling and it actually moves my thumb, but now I'm just feeling just the slightest little movement.
And if you can't and you can't fake, it's something you cannot make it happen if you try. You couldn't simulate that sensation if you tried. So this is your homework. Every day for the next 7 days, I want you to find little things. So let's say you got to go to the store. Let's say you got Walmart, and most places have more than one Walmart close by. Should I go to the Walmart on dot dot dot? If you don't get a yes, ask the other one. And whichever one it says yes to, don't question why you got to go to that one.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just
Put
do
your
it.
clothes out. Pick 2 outfits and say, higher self, which one gives me the best vibe energy? And whatever it says, put them clothes on. Don't question it.
Okay.
But do little mundane stuff. And the point is you're building a relationship and you're building trust. And so you got to feel comfortable. One thing I like to do on a day when you don't have anything else to do, spend the day letting your intuition take you around town. Just like, okay, should I go such a thing? Just follow your intuition. Should I go here? Cool. And go there. Don't ask why. Just follow. And just set a time limit for how long you're going to do it. And see what happens at the end. See if you can see something weaving together. Because those are always like the coolest moments are always those days where I let my intuition just like take me on a journey. Those things have been so magical for me. So
that sounds like fun. A lot of fun. It's going to be.
So
fun.
now you do that and make sure you get back with me and see how you're going. That way, when you have those really deep questions and you really need that support, you will be able to trust. And you may have to do it longer than 7 days, but you'll be able to. You can level up at 7 days, and then that way keep leveling up, and so that when you have that deep question and you get that yes and you get that push, you'll be like, okay, say less, bet I'm on it.
Much appreciated. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. So tell me a little bit about your background. So I know that you were raised as an Israelite, right, in the 80s. And I know a little bit about that religion. But at what point did you start to kind of change your perspective and, venture outside of that religion and start to explore your own? And how did you get into Ifa?
So that's interesting. And I have to say this because depending on where you live, the Israelites look different. We didn't stand on the corner. So, see, exactly. Okay. You do immediately. You do. You laugh because you knew we were not that kind. That was not okay. Not different. Okay. Different group. Different group. But it's interesting because having grown up as an Israelite, I always knew there was a God. But my relationship with God was such that if I did something wrong, if I didn't live right, you're no longer going to be one of the chosen people and this, that, and the other thing. And so I didn't have this, oh my gosh, I love God and kind of relationship. It was more fear. I'm doing something out of obligation. And, moving out on my own, I kept like the really important high holy days, and I celebrate, the fasting and Passover. Hanukkah is my thing. I'm never giving Hanukkah up. I still celebrate Hanukkah.
Okay.
But, I'm going through the motions. There was no attachment to it other than if I don't do this, God's not going to like me. That's just the honest truth. So late 2019, I would say, honestly, is probably when the awakening was like really brimming. I was in a really deep depression. My firstborn child had transitioned in 2015. I had him 20 weeks early. And one of the things I said is like, I must have really pissed God off in a previous life because God keeps taking children from me. And he was my first biological child. And I grew up with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I didn't think I could have kids naturally anyway. And then I get pregnant only for my firstborn child to pass away. I was like, God hates me. This is clearly what it is. So I had his brother very close behind him. So that a grieving process honestly got halted because now I'm pregnant again. And then a year later, I get pregnant with the youngest. So I'm like, yeah, that grieving process for my Gabriel didn't really, it was like afterwards. And all these visions of what I thought being a parent and have a partner and things, it just wasn't what I envisioned. But I also was one of those people, I'm an Aquarius, I bottled my feelings. I wasn't telling anybody what was going on. things like that. So by 2019, I'm just in the throes of depression. It is just so hard getting an autism diagnosis for my middle child, and it was just rough. And I was just like, okay. And the thing that kicked everything off was somebody posting about moon water. One of my
Okay.
Facebook friends said she was making moon water, and I'm like, what's that? What's that? And so she adds me to a melanated spiritual group. And it honestly didn't kick off with Orisha, it kicked off with me. So someone's posting about their sun, moon, and rising. And I'm like, huh? You got, wait. And I liked astrology as a kid. So then I'm like digging into my birth chart, like, yo, what can I learn about myself? I'm excited. I'm learning me. I spent a lot of time learning me. Astrology came first, numerology immediately behind it. What's your life path? My life path number. Learning in its true Aquarian fashion. Let me seek out this knowledge and learn it. And what it did was planted seeds of me learning myself. So the more I learned about myself, things like that. So then ancestor veneration is a conversation that comes up. And understanding that relationship. And I'm like, okay. So, when you start searching stuff, they get your YouTube feed starts to pick up on the shifts.
Yeah,
So
the algorithm.
yes. And so all of a sudden, these
Yes.
tarot picker cards. I've always wanted a tarot reading. So the idea that I could watch a YouTube video and get a tarot reading was like,
yes.
yo! Like,
That's me too.
I was the kid that wanted to be a witch. Like, when I was younger, standing in the middle of my front yard and we raining on half the yard, not raining on the other half, I told my friends I was manipulating the weather. I was always a witch for Halloween. That continued into my adult life. So I was never so separate in my walk that the door for spirituality, the occult, mysticism was always open. I just never walked all the way in. It was just open and little things would flow through. So I just remember one day somebody posting about Orisha. And I'm like, huh. So I'm like digging and learning and trying to understand. And the way I understood Orisha is what I think allowed me to be open. So when I learned that, the idea that traditional African religions had multiple gods. But then when I went searching, what I understood was, no, they didn't. They had one God, one source, one all. You can't know that God in totality. And then they have the reflections of God in us, in nature, and things like that. So from a Yoruba perspective, it would have been the Orishas, Orisha literally means it's a consciousness within nature. It's literally consciousness in nature. So it's God's consciousness in Mother Nature and also within us, because as humans, we are simply a reflection of Mother Nature in a human vessel. And I'm just like, oh, well, that makes sense. They're not worshiping more than one God. They see the same God we see, but they see God in the trees. They see God in the grass. They see God in the sun and the moon and the stars. And I'm like, well, I can see God there too. I just didn't have names. I didn't have a Yemoja to say I see God in the ocean waves. I didn't have the river running and sea Oshun. But then I have names to go with God in all of these areas. And I just remember the dream. And I had a dream about Orisha. And I mean, this was real early on to discovering Orisha. It's like, she kicked that door open. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. So if you can picture like a Western saloon, that's what it was. I'm in the saloon. I'm walking through. There's an ice statue on the side, and Yemoja and Oshun are at the ice statue. I keep going further in. I see Ogun, and I see all the Orishas. I see Shango, and I'm just like, and I woke up like, oh, okay, so the Orishas came in the dream. So initially it started with the 7 African powers altar. And I went through the battle like, oh my God, am I doing the wrong thing? I'm gonna be honest, I had that conflict happen within me, because ego is like, this is not what you were raised to do. This is not what you were raised to believe. So I took my altar down for a little bit. I needed to,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I took my altar down and I had to I had to come back to it slowly. But it just, I then found stuff about your Ori, and your Ori is your head in a literal sense, but it's your consciousness. It's your aspect of you that's attached to your destiny, and thus is your connection to source. So what I started with was my 7 African powers altar, honoring my Ori and honoring my ancestors. And the biggest part was really the Ori work and my ancestor veneration. And so I did that
Okay.
for almost like I did it for a minute until I met my elder. And it kept coming up. I was doing tarot readings and things like that at the time, and saying, you need an elder. And so my first elder was not Ifa based. She helped me
Okay.
develop having a spiritual practice and tapping, being able to hone my spiritual gifts because they all showed up simultaneously. Um,
Wow, really?
yeah, they all showed up. Like, we're all here. Good
Oh,
day. Good day
just
to you.
like a light switch turned on.
Yes. And the question she asked me that turned them all on was, what do you want? And my genuine answer was, I want a relationship with God where I feel like that God doesn't hate me. And it was just like,
Or you don't fear
exactly.
God, right?
And I was
Yeah.
like, ah, and boom, everything shows up at that time. When I met my Ialode, I was listening to her show. She had a radio show, and so she streamed it live on Facebook. And so I was listening to her there. And then my birthday 2021, my cousin, who had been listening to her for a while, gifted me a reading with her. So she paid for the
Oh,
reading, and I
nice.
got a Ifa reading for her. She was not my first Ifa reading, but that's how I connected with her. And it was just the most beautiful connection. I was like,
Oh,
I adore you already. I adore you. And she's like, yeah, I don't know how to tell you this. Not only are you going to initiate, but you're going to be a priest. And
what?
and by then I had
Wow.
done so much inner work and work with my intuition, I knew she was not lying. But I had no designs on initiating prior to that. In fact, I'm just going to be a devotee. I'm just going to honor the Orisha, and that's kind of be it. And I'm not going to do anything else. So when she said, you're going to be a priest, I was like, yeah, I've been running from that. It's kind of been running. Been running from that. So same year, September, I initiated and got crowned.
Wow.
So I do have to initiate again at some. Well, I'm choosing to initiate again because there's more Orishas that have come up to say, "Hey, we want you to receive us too." But currently, I have Yemoja and Shango. I have both hands of Ifa, so that makes me a priest, and I'm able to divine just like a Babalawo. So a lot of people feel like I'm in the Isheshe branch of the Orisha tradition, so more traditional, where women are able to be priests. Where other people may be like in the diaspora, it's more Lakumi Santeria, where they don't let women be priests.
Right.
But no, my spirit would not let me go. Yeah,
That right.
yeah, like that didn't rub. That's probably the reason I didn't think I was going to initiate. Because even though I didn't
Okay.
want to be a priest, the idea that I could not be one because I was a woman did not sit well with me. So the elder showed up who was more traditional, and the Ile that I was in was nothing but womb holders. Not a man in sight, nothing but womb holders. And I'm like, how powerful is all these just that's it? Yes.
Right.
So that's my very short, succinct Ifa story.
Now, when you were speaking on your journey, it's very relatable to, what I went through in my earlier years when I was developing spirituality as well. I went through this period of depression. Some people call it the dark night of the soul, but it was a very tough time where I kind of was at rock bottom because I was going through stuff within my relationships, and I felt isolated and alone. So I was pretty much forced to do some self-reflection and forced to kind of like learn myself
Yeah.
because that's all I had at the time, So that jump started my spiritual journey. Now the route that I went was through the Kemetic spiritual system. So it's very similar though. What I'm hearing you speak about, like they have the deities that represent different aspects of nature, right? The netter, and it's pretty much similar, just different names for the same concept.
Offset and
And
Asi are very close to me.
okay, nice. And when I was kind of first introduced to it, I had a vision as well, and the goddess Sekhmet, the warrior goddess, she she was the one that appeared in my vision, and I was just so blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? I want to know more. Tell me more, just like you. So I'm studying the same astrology. I'm learning, about crystals and my, just like you, my life path number and all that stuff. I'm just learning about myself, and that helped foster like a growth in me and healing from like some of the traumas that I kind of was dealing with. So I didn't know that there was a division in Ifa. I knew somebody that was literally trying to get me to be more into that practice, the spiritual practice. I read books on it, because I was still trying to discover myself and find my place and find what resonated with me the most. So somebody, told me to read books on Ifa, but then I didn't have such a great experience because they kind of put fear into me, because they said that if you don't do what they tell you to do, then you get bad luck or something like that, like bad stuff happens to you. That's kind of what I was told, and I was scared away from that. I'm like, why would you practice a spirit, like a something where you have to fear, you have to fear,
Lord.
the spiritual. Yeah, I know, and that's bad, and it's probably not good on their part to scare people away like that. But I've heard stories like if you get a reading and they tell you to do something and you don't do it, then you get bad luck, stuff like that. That turned me away earlier in my spirituality. But now I'm at a point where I understand that it's nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear, because we do come from a lot of us come from a religious background where they teach us that there's God and there's a devil, right? And there's always consequences if you don't do the right thing. So I had to really break out of that and understand that God, creator, is just it's just one. We're all one, all of us. You and I are one. You are a reflection of me. I'm a reflection of you.
Ashay.
And we're all just aspects of this one, right? And what is there to fear in that? There's nothing scary about that. So that's kind of where I am with my spirituality. I don't particularly practice a specific system, like spiritual system like Ifa, but I was kind of like very heavily drawn to the Kemetic system when I first got into my spiritual awakening. Now I wanted to talk about how you create your sacred space in the house, and why sacred spaces can facilitate healing and spiritual connection amongst women.
Okay. Can I ask a favor? I'm gonna answer this too,
Yes.
but I really want to address your experience. Like,
Okay, sure,
like
absolutely.
experience. Like, I'm just
Absolutely.
thinking, like, because I feel like your experience is valid, and there's plenty of people who haven't. And so, as a priestess, I think it behooves me to talk about Ifa in a way that's more healthy. Um,
Okay.
and
Okay.
and I,
Yeah.
and I also just want to throw in there that even though Ifa is my practice, my spiritual team is very diverse. So Osset has always been close. I also had a dream about Osset and Bastet coming to me, but then also giving me
Mhm.
vision of me as Olokun. So my spirit, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. So I have a very like not, that's my comedic connection is very much tied to a past life experience in
Mhm.
that realm. So, I've always had a love for Egypt, like love as a kid, which is odd as
Mhm.
an Israelite. They enslaved your people. I know, but I really love them, and I don't know why. So, like, I wanted to share that we have that bond, that connection. So, what I know now is one. because of the Atlantic slave trade, there are various Orisha traditions in and outside of the African diaspora. Lukumi Santeria is the most popular one, but it is also the Afro-Cuban tradition.
Right. Yeah. I heard of that.
But this is how I describe it. Isheshe is the mother tradition. So it's the one that originated from the continent. And even Isheshe has been colonized on the continent to an extent. So it still doesn't look the way it did as it was pre-colonization. But in the diaspora, Isheshe had to marry Abrahamic religion. And depending on where you're located, what it married. Lukumi Santeria, it married Catholicism. So it's got a Catholic daddy and a Sheshe mama. And the child that is born is Santeria Lukumi. So it has
That makes
traits
sense.
of Isheshe and traits of Catholicism. So the Orishas are syncretized into the saints. So certain saints are also certain Orishas. So it's like Santa Barbara, I think is Shango.
Oh.
Yeah, and I don't know no Catholic background or anything, but I walk past this saint and I'm almost Shango. So I walk past this saint, it's like, and I had to ask, like, who is that? Who's that? And so when she tells me, and I'm looking at this woman dressed in red with a sword and all this, and this thing was huge. And then I said, that's Shango.
Really?
And so, and she says, why do you ask? And I'm like, well, I know. And I'm looking at her because I don't know. You know, you don't know sometimes. So I'm treading lightly. And when I said, well, some African traditions hid their deities in saint. She said, you mean Shango? Thank you, I'm safe. Okay, cool. It's safe here. But you think about Catholicism and some of the things, the less healthy things we know about Catholicism. They don't let women be priests. You can't be a priest in the Lukumi Santeria tradition. That is an influence of the father, not the mother. You hear about people talk about Catholic. If you do this bad thing, you're gonna go to hell. If you do this bad thing, that is how people talk about that, and thus the way that the Odu, which is a spiritual text, and the stories and the parables that are used in divination, a lot of times there is a focus on the negative. Even when I go look for books that have Odu translations in there, they don't share the Ide, the good fortune, in the same way they share the Ibi, the bad fortune. You not doing your offerings, Ebo, the medicine, that's not giving you bad luck. You get a divination and it's going to say, hey, you got either this or this. The diviner will tell you which way it's manifesting. So if it's manifesting in Ide, the offering is to continue propelling that energy forward. It doesn't mean you're going to have bad luck because you don't do it. It's just saying, hey, this is to it's alchemizing the energy. So the offerings either alchemize or they transmute. So this is alchemizing the Ide. It's making sure the good fortune. It's saying thank you. It's an offering of gratitude. Like, yo, you're already doing this work? Say less. Here you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. If it's an Ebi, this is coming up in the negative aspect. Most of the time, Ebi is a sign of bad character. And bad character simply means you need to fix your attitude. You're doing something. You are blocking your own path in some way. But Onisha says we can help you because Onisha's inside of you, whether you're a crown or not, the energy is present in your being. So, hey, give us these offerings, and what's going to happen is we're going to help you transmute, change, reform this energy to move it from Ed to Ide. So it's not there. You don't do this, and they're giving you back. No, the energy is already present. The energy already exists. You're either already operating on the path of blessings, or hey, you're going this way, and there's a little sketch on this.
Change that.
Yeah, we just want to try to help you change it, and you can decide. You know, those that know better do better. So you can either take your medicine or not. The thing that I think is also challenging is depending on who you go to, they are operating with a certain mindset what offering should look like. And thus when you say, well, what's my offering? And they say, oh, you got to do it's go $500.
Yep.
And then you're like, I got to be rich to be blessed, Lord? Like, and my practice doesn't look that way. Like I just told somebody earlier, my ancestors asked for a tuna fish sandwich as their offering.
Okay.
And technically ended up being half a tuna fish sandwich. Like that was the offering. That's what they wanted. Like what does tuna
Okay.
cost? Like even with inflation, what does it cost to make me a tuna fish sandwich?
Right.
I'm not going broke making a tuna fish sandwich. Like so
Right.
it's all about being aligned to the right person who's going to help you on that journey in the right way. And I feel like yeah, I felt like that was important to say in case someone was like, well, I want to do this, but it's going to cost me, blah, 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 blah. It's not that there is no energy exchange, but just find the right person. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Ashe. So,
Well, thank you, because that's definitely a change in perspective. You know, it definitely helps me see it in a different light than what I was told. So, thank you for sharing that.
okay, so sacred space. Um, it's interesting because my sacred space journey has evolved and yet not. So for me, my ancestor altar had very humble beginnings. I had a broken end table. It had no top. It was just tape. The top was gone. Top was gone. I had a broken desk where the top went down. So I would take the broken top and put it on top of my broken end table, cover it with a white baby blanket. I had a little bundle of sage, a little tea light candle, a glass of water, and whenever I could, I'd pull all that stuff out and I would say prayers of protection. I would always, my first mentor told me to visualize like myself in a protective shell. And what I ended up doing, and I started doing it as myself, then I started expanding it. So I would visualize it, or intend visualization is probably more accurate, that it was encompassing my house, making my entire house protective in the same energy. So, same thing. I go to my altar space, I have my little protective energy around me, and that's what makes it sacred. It's like it's protected. I'm only allowing energy of unconditional love and light and things. This is what this space is for. And this is my intention for this space. And when I'm done, then I put all the things away. I didn't have a set altar room or anything like that initially. Eventually, I expanded to having, but all I had initially was me and this.
And the table. Yeah.
Yep, me and a little table. And understanding that even without that, I am the altar. Thus, everywhere I go is sacred space. Everywhere, because that's the energy. I bring sacred, divine, light energy with me. And I always intend it around me. I always intend to be protective. I always intend that you can look, you can probably see me, but you can't touch me. Like I bring that in there. And for me, sacred simply means you are inviting love into this space. You are inviting joy and light and all the good feelings and good energies into this space. That's what makes something sacred. Inherently, all of your spaces are in fact sacred. Crystals don't make them sacred. Candles don't make them sacred. You make the space sacred. What makes it beautiful when we look at our home is those little touches give that visual cue sometimes to our brain that it's sacred until you get to a place where you're like, oh, my whole house is sacred. Like my altar room is back here. It's a whole room dedicated to that. But the other day I wanted to do divination in my bedroom. I wanted to do it in my bedroom. If my son is bothering me, he's like, come up to the couch. Then I go sit on my couch and do divination. And at the end of the day, if I decide I'm doing divination in that space, then immediately that space has now become sacred. That space has now become sacred. I don't do certain things in my altar room that I might do in my bedroom. You know, but it doesn't make my bedroom any less a sacred space, because if whatever I do in the bedroom is also sacred,
The sacred space.
it's also sacred. So that energy, the sacredness is all about intention. It's all about your intention. You asked about women and womb holders and sacred spaces with each other and why that's important. As I feel like colonization, specifically for Black women, really did a number on us.
Absolutely.
It pitted us against each other. So I was just listening to something where they said, well, the mulatto slaves sold better than the darker ones. And so immediately where there's a divide, a color divide being put in place. If you were seen as quote unquote pretty and things like that, you got to be in the house as opposed to the darker ones that had to stay in the field. There's an immediate divide that is ancestral, that is a wound that is within us. So there's already a wound in our being, in our beingness against each other that needs healing. And so
Wow.
that's already
Yes.
that's a generational wound that we have to heal. We feel okay, I'm probably channeling now. We feel overprotective over our men because they were taken from us. Oh shoot.
Wow.
I'm gonna go ahead and
Wow.
proactively apologize if I start channeling and I cry because I can already tell it's coming.
I can listen. I'm feeling it right now
I'm like,
myself. I have
they
chills and
took our men
everything.
from us. So the idea that he would look at someone else or be with someone else, even though, like, even pre-colonization, where we would have been maybe the one of many wives, he only had eyes for us. And that wife collective was sacred. We were a support for one another. Yeah, there were opportunities where some, there's cattiness in general, but in the grander scheme of that design, it was designed so that we didn't have to do everything by ourselves. And
Absolutely.
now
Yep.
it's like, if you can't do it alone, you're seen as less than. And we really have to go back and heal that and bring that community back to us. It also stripped us of our power because pre-colonization, we would have been a sacred sisterhood. We would have divined together. And I call that out specifically. Women, everyone has intuition, and then there's women's intuition. And the reason women's intuition is special is because we came with wounds in our body. We came with a portal between heaven and earth in our body. We are literally designed for that reason. We are a collective of beings that can birth a body for a soul. We can carry multiple souls at once in our body. There is a sacred and most powerful thing to that. The world was birthed into existence, not built, birthed into existence. And the longer we forget our sacredness to the Most High, that most intimate of connections. It's not that men are not connected. There's an intimacy in our connection to the divine because of how we were made. We are made to birth life into this world. Black women specifically can birth every race on the planet. Every
That's it.
single
That's so true.
color and shade on the planet comes but from a Black woman. So when we talk about us coming back together as sisterhood, when two or more come together with that same intention, when two or more of us come into the room and say, hey, we're going to do a prosperity ritual, there is power there. When two or more come together, we're going to do healing work and support of one another. Like before I came on, that's what we were doing. Holding the youngest one, holding space for her. And like I looked at her and I said, let it go. And her feeling safe in that moment to cry. And no, nobody was going to say, why are you crying? And just be held by her sisters in that moment. That is what sacred sisterhood is supposed to be for.
Let me tell you, that part right there had me tearing up so bad. I was just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I wonder if anybody could see how much my eyes are watering right now because what she said was so moving and so powerful. And I envisioning myself as like, what if I was in that sacred space where I was able to just be vulnerable and let loose and just cry and release all my emotions. And that is why it is so important that we are able to come together and create sister circles like that.
But we are still healing that separation that the colonizers put us. We're still healing that. We are still trying to fight against the patriarchy that says we can't be as robust, as powerful, as limitless, chaotic, whatever we want to be. We can't be that because they've told our brothers they should look like the slave master. They believe they should replicate the slave master's relationship. They feel like, well, the
Mm-hmm.
slave master was in charge of everybody. So I
Mm-hmm.
should be in charge. He was in charge of you. I should be in charge of you.
Mm-hmm.
And not realizing that the universe is forcing us back to union. There is a reason why womb holders are becoming more powerful, more abundant, making more money, because abundance is a feminine energy. The act
Mm-hmm.
of acquiring it, if you are putting forth effort, is masculine, but the ability to attract and be in a space of abundance is feminine. That is feminine
Mm-hmm.
energy all day. We are supposed to be rich. We are supposed to be prosperous. We're supposed to have these things. The fact that the money is going up so it takes two to work means God is forcing us to work together and they can't see it. Forcing us to
Wow, that's deep.
work together, and you keep trying to fight against it when God's like, no, I want you to work together, but
Together. Yeah.
we have to work together to heal that rift between us. We have to say we no longer have to stand up and make master see us as important, as worthy. We need to see each other that way. I love walking past Black women. Hey, Queen. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I love telling random Black women, "Hey, you look so good." I
Yes.
love
Yes.
that. Like, especially
Mm-hmm.
since I locked my hair, that community has been so beautiful. I just want us to come together and not feel like the world, not and realize the world is abundant. Not only are we abundant, the world is abundant. We have to let go of the limiting belief that there is a lack in this world. And when we realize the world is abundant, we can actually come together in unity versus competition. You and I could be doing the same thing. There's plenty for us to eat. We can both
Absolutely.
eat. We can both eat
Yes.
because the people that are going to gravitate to you are yours, and the people who are going to gravitate to me are mine. And they may not be the same. There's always going to be a nuance that is different, and that is the beauty of God reflecting in all of us. There's always going to be differences in that harmonizing energy to draw people who are drawn to those differences. Like, that's just, it's so important. It's so healing because when we come together, we can ask our brothers to join us. Like, we don't even realize we have to lead this charge in uniting the community. We have to see ourselves. I don't care if you're rich or you're on food stamps. We have to see each other as goddesses so that our brothers can remember that they're gods. We have to do that.
Oh wow. That's what's up.
Ashe, I'm done.
And you had me tearing up for a
I'm
second
sorry. I'm
because
sorry.
everything you said was so so powerful. And I wish I had a mentor like you when I was younger because I actually really struggled with just seeing myself in other women, and I really, now that I'm older, recognize the importance of us coming together and healing each other.
Yeah.
That's the hence the reason the creation of this whole platform. And if you were someone starting out on your journey, beginning in your journey, like what advice would you have to, to someone to start just creating those little sacred spaces? And I say that to say because when I was younger and I was learning more about, creating altars and sacred spaces and stuff like that, coming from a religious background, it was kind of a scary thing to get into because I had older people in my ear saying that you don't want to invite negative spirits into your space. You have to be careful with what you're doing, or, you can, really, if you don't know what you're doing, you can really, bring in some bad energy. And it was scary for me. And I held off a long time with getting into that type of that space because I didn't really know what I was doing and I didn't have a mentor. And I was just afraid that, what if I do it wrong? What if I put, my family in jeopardy and
Right.
start, inviting negative energy into the space? So what advice would you give to someone that is just starting out and wanting to become more spiritually connected and wanting to create a sacred space in their house? Where would you tell them to start?
Honestly, you start with you. I think that is, if you go to my website, you'll see at the top it says self-love is an act of worship and you are the altar to the divine. You start with you. You start with you being this sacred space. You start with that work, like I said at the beginning, getting to know yourself. Like, let you be the altar. Your offerings are learning little bits and pieces. You don't have to know a full birth chart, but learning your sun, moon, and rising in the most basic of senses will like change your life. Basically,
That's true. That's true.
you're a Cancer rising. I'm a and then learning Cancer is a sign that I feel and she cry a lot, things like that.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes. It makes all the sense in the world.
Like,
Yep.
oh my God, this makes all like everything made so much sense.
Yes.
Start with you, revel in you. Like when you fall in love with someone, what's the first thing you want to do? Get to know them. That is
Yes.
part of your
True.
courting process. You want to ask them 20 questions. You want to get to know them. You want to keep learning new things about them throughout the entire relationship. You constantly want to learn about this other person. You need to court you in the same way you would court somebody else. If you want to make an altar, make the altar to you. Put your picture. Because in the Orisha tradition, we honor our Ori, and your Ori is literally you. Your Ori is you. It's not a separate energy. Your Ori is you. So we honor you. So make an altar to you. Put flowers to you on your altar. Pour water for you. Give gratitude to the journey that you took to get to that place. People always say, I'm in competition with myself. I am in awe of myself. I'm not competing with thee. Daniyah is not competing with thee. I went by D when I was younger. I'm not competing with thee. She was brave. She went through multiple instances of assault. She had to hold her baby till he transitioned. She slept in her car and got a corporate job. I am in awe
Yes. Powerful
of
and
her.
persistent and resilient. Yes.
Yes, I'm in awe of her, not in competition. I'm in awe of her. I give her honor and gratitude and reverence and healing because she went through a lot. And those are the things I'm illuminating because we're not broken. Sometimes I don't want to use healing because people are like, am I broken? No, you're not. It's an illumination journey. You are shining lights on things that need to be addressed. And every time you shine a light and address it, it has space to manifest in a more healthy way into a power, into a gift, into a talent, and manifest in a different way. You start with you. Make an altar to yourself. My altar in my bedroom, it is completely me. The only thing missing is a picture of me. It's got superheroes on it. It's got plants on it. It's got crystals on it. It's got tarot cards on it. It is me. It is start there. Once you get comfortable in your own energy, so learning your intuition, continuing to venerate your Ori, your higher self each morning, doing those things, learning what your own actual energy feels like. That way, when something different comes,
Then you'll know how to
you
discern
know how to
between the two.
discern between you and something else. After you do you, then do ancestors. Notice I haven't mentioned a deity yet. Then you go to your ancestors. Then you start building that relationship because your one-on-one relationship with you is you building a relationship with God. You are not only an emanation of source in a human vessel, you are also the vessel that the source created. By honoring and getting to know that creation, you are honoring the Most High. You're already building that relationship. Then you go to your ancestors and you start building that relationship. And knowing you are the sovereign and saying, this is how I need this to manifest. See, some people want to go into invoking things and things like that. Then all of a sudden they seeing stuff in their house and they don't know why.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
no, you need to do spiritual hygiene. the protection work and things of that nature, and then say, okay, ancestors, I want to build a relationship with you. So can we start here? I'm just going to pour water and I'm going to talk to you and things like that. And you know what would be a cool sign? Send me a feather. And then I'll know that you received that well. And you do that for at least 9 days. And then you can step it up. Okay, cool. Well, I might want to see ... And understand the ancestors are sitting with the creator now. If you say, yo, I want to see a purple bunny to know that you heard what I said, then be open to the fact that you're going to see a purple bunny. And don't question, you walk past this chick and all of a sudden she got a purple bunny tattoo. There go your purple bunny. Receive it. Say thank you. And we'll do whatever you need to do with that information. But that's where I would start. I would not, if people ask me, how you, I'm not teaching, I've got a mentorship program starting tomorrow. And it's a 1-year program. We're not even going to talk about the Orishas to the last 3 months. We're not talking about Orisha to the last 3 months of the program. They have to do self-love, shadow work, learning their personal mission, vision, and values. They got to do all that stuff. Doing what we just did with the intuition. They got to do all that stuff before they even get to the ancestors. They got to learn how to cultivate a dream practice and understand that they're getting messages in their dreams and how to try to start interpreting them without having to pay somebody for a reading every time. You might need one here and there,
Right.
but at least be able to get some basics on your own. They got to be able to do that first. So for me, that's where, start with you. You. Because at the end of the day, if you never ever figure out an ancestor altar, but you walk with Iwa Pele, good character, meaning you're walking in alignment with your destiny and your highest purpose, your ancestors will always be there. Your Orisha will always be there. Your Inter will always be there. Your angels will always be there. Your entire spiritual team will constantly root for you. They always have been. Spiritual awakenings simply give you a conscious awareness that they're there.
Right. Wow. That's very important. Thank you. And I heard you mention that you have a mentorship. You have a couple other things that are going on. You have a podcast, right? You have a couple videos on YouTube, and I definitely took the time out to watch a few of those. They were very interesting. I have to finish the one with you and your god siblings.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I have to finish that video, but I did start watching. It's very, very interesting. Can you tell our audience a little bit about more of the services that you offer?
So I'm eclectic, and I can't be. I tried to niche down, and it don't work for me. So I'm gonna do. It's spiritual, but it's the most mundane thing that I do, which is my poetry. So I do write poetry. I have 4 poetry books published. My most recent one is Self Love is an Act of Worship, where I tell my actual journey up to that point through poetry. So I really love that. It's my story, and then I incorporate poems. That was something I did as a kid, and it wasn't something I ever thought I would share, but it's good for my throat chakra. It's good.
Yes.
And most of my poems are all channeled. That's why I say it's also part of my spiritual work. So there's occasions where I will offer readings as a poem. I will offer readings as a poem. So I you want a reading? Cool. I will give it to you in the form of a poem. And those are always super beautiful. But I am a psychic medium and oracle. So yes, I do offer readings. I do both tarot and Ifa divination. I am a Reiki master, so I do just basic Reiki sessions, and I also do channeled energy healing where it's more intense, and I'm channeling messages as I'm doing the healing work. So those normally I encourage 2 sessions to really get some of that good release and things like that going on. I am a death doula, and a death doula is not like Dr. Kevorkian, because I had someone in the comment one day say that. I want you to picture the pharaoh getting ready to transition and the priestesses that were surrounding him. Preparing him. And similar thing. How do you want that transition to be? So do you want music playing? What do you want to be wearing? Do you want incense going? What kind of prayers? A lot of times some people say that their loved ones in the end are, speaking gibberish. They're probably speaking in spirit language, and you don't know what they're talking about. So having someone channel and share those messages. What do you want your offerings to look like after, when it's time for you to go on the altar? Let's talk about your offerings. What does your altar need to look like? What kind of things do you want your family to put on your altar to honor you? And helping guide them into the ancestral realm with honor and with dignity and with elevation. So that's work that I do. I also do I'm a spiritual awakening doula for the diaspora specifically because we have a unique disconnect with our spiritual practices. And most of the time when we go through a conscious spiritual awakening, that's where we're headed. We're heading to an African traditional practice and trying to navigate all the information that's out there. What's true, what's not? What do I align with? How do I get over information overload? How do I get over my anger with the religion that I'm coming from? And feeling like I've been lied to all this time. How do I navigate these things? And having a doula that specializes in spiritual awakenings to help be that support for you, to help you advocate for yourself, and just be there for you when you're trying to answer those questions. I'm currently, now as my Ifa Priestess journey has elevated me to say, hey, you need godchildren. It's time. So I have some godchildren that are taking my From Self to Source with Ifa mentorship journey. And we're doing our first class session tomorrow. I'm super excited. And it's really just like what we talked about, taking them through that journey through themselves so they can build that relationship with Source. And self-love is a foundation. Ifa simply is giving structure. It's simply giving us structure. They don't have to initiate, crown, none of that. But if they wanted to, they would know it. I wouldn't have to tell them. Divination would just confirm something they already knew. This is just simply so that they have a practically spiritual practice. And when I say practically spiritual, your human self is divine as much as you are gloriously God and goddess. It's not separate. So your practical life and your spiritual life go together. And being able to have a spiritual practice that honors your humanness, where, God, I know you want me to quit my job, but I ain't got no money in the bank. You need to be able to have that discernment and confidence with you and the Creator to say, hey, I know you want me to quit my job, I ain't got no money in the bank, Lord, so let's talk about how we can get this money in the bank, because I'm listening to you. I don't need no tower moment. I just need you to help me get the money in the bank if you want me to quit my job. That's what a practically spiritual practice looks like. I can't give you a buffet as my offering, but I can give you this water. And with that intention, with love, I'm giving it to you with gratitude. And know your spiritual team is going to receive it in that vein. That's what a practically spiritual practice looks like. And making it work for you. I ain't getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to say prayers. I'm just not. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to do it. So don't commit to that. Just say, okay, this is what I can do in the space that I have. And just do it that way. We make sometimes it's so hard. And making it practical allows it to not feel like you're checking off boxes. It just is simply you and your practice.
I've been through that same thing where I've just been overwhelmed. I'm like, I want to get connected. I want to build my relationship, spiritually. And I start grounding. I start meditating. I start doing visualizations and a whole bunch of, stuff that it just gets overwhelming to the point where it's like, I can't keep up with this. So then I just like throw it all away. And, like you said, it's all about, creating a balance, and what works for you is something that's very, important. You also have a special offer for our audience, right?
Yes. So I'm really excited that I am going to create this beautiful coupon for y'all. So any services, y'all get 15% off of any of my services. My website is niasdivinegarden.com. Use the code goddess and boom, you get 15% off. And I need to see if I can create the coupon, copy it, because I want to give that to you off the shop items too. I want to give that to you as both. So if you go on my shop and you're like, yo, I want this oil, and I saw you on the show, inbox me. Is that where I can discount it for you? I will take the 15% off in the shop as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that way you can get the good discount and not have to use like 2 different codes. Like, just got it. It's the code.
Okay.
Plug the show.
Sounds
and
good.
I got you.
Thank you so much. I'm sure the audience will appreciate that. And real quick, can you just, let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
So I am on TikTok as Nia Shalom. So that's Niyah Shalom, Shalom. I am also same handle on Instagram, same thing on YouTube. I try to keep it consistent. And
Yes,
then
that's how you
Facebook,
gotta
you
do
can
it.
follow me as Ifa Daniyah. And my podcast and my YouTube channel is Nia's Divine Garden, same as my website. So if you Google me, all of the things will actually come up. I think that's really dope to Google myself, and like my podcast comes up and everything comes up all at the same time. So I try to keep it consistent and
Awesome.
make it easy to find me.
To wrap up everything, we had a very, very powerful conversation, and I thank you for your time. Thank you so much, and I'm sure
Absolutely.
that our audience will appreciate the conversation as well.
Great.
Absolutely. Actually, I do. I already thought of like some different episodes that we can do again, different topics that we can talk about, and I'm sure we can talk for hours.
Yes. That's what Sacred
Yeah,
Sisterhood is about. Like, yeah, you know what? We just vibing right now. We just vibing.
absolutely,
That's great.
absolutely. That was a powerful, powerful conversation, and I give so much thanks to our sister, the goddess, the priestess, Ifa Daniyah, for sharing her insight and her expertise and wisdom with the audience. And I hope that you found as much value in this conversation as I did. Don't forget to subscribe to this show to stay updated on all of our latest episodes. Don't miss out on any of our helpful tips and insights. And remember one thing, you are capable of achieving anything you set your mind to. Keep pushing forward and continue to prioritize your mental, physical, and spiritual well being. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, share your ideas and let us know which topics you would like us to discuss by taking our survey in the link below. And you'll also receive a 30% discount code for any membership at the Goddess Training Camp. Until next time, I'm wishing you peace, prosperity, happiness, abundance, and joy. Peace.